Okay, this is the Robbins and Myers vintage fan. Uh, Putting everything back together. I got everything cleaned up. I'll show some before and after videos after. Those are all the parts labeled. I got this voltage divider resistive switch hooked up, tested. You can see the previous videos. The AC comes back to here, and depending on the position of the switch will either be high, bypassing the resistor, medium, or low. I had to resolder that resistor there because in taking off these nuts and screws and relugging everything, it snapped. I tested it, it should be okay. So AC goes into the blue, through the switch, out to there, and returns here, and something like that. I don't know what the fuck's going on anymore. I got the 3 mounting screws in. Now I got everything relugged. I'm gonna put this cap on, and I got this nice kit from Vintage Fan. Vintage wire and supply. It came with the replacement felt. I had to use, there's a spring inside of here, and most people glue it on the back and inside. I had to use like 12 fingers to keep this spring from keep popping out. It was quite an effort. It took me like 30 tries, but then I weighed it down with the top and it seemed to stay. Now I'm going to fish these wires and new grommets I got with the kit, and hopefully this goes okay. Hold on. Alright, I'm a moron. This is the head wire that goes to the stator. That's going to be in there. I epoxied those, not epoxied, but JB welded them so that they were secure to the stator because they were a little flimsy. So those are all trimmed and ready to go. That's the original wiring and secured with JB weld. So AC goes to this switch, this one, and then it goes through here to the voltage divider, and then there's brushes inside this end, and then the other stator comes out here. So in through the switch, out here, and then the stator return is going to be through this head wire. So if that makes any sense. So I'm going to get back to fishing this through. Let's see what happens. Alright, so I got the grommets in that came with the kit. This one was a bare, but I got the head wire in. I bought this supposed Robbins and Myers switch cover. I had to cut it in half. I thought it was rubber and it snapped into a million pieces, but fortunately I was able to keep the end, and then I wasn't able to change positions because it was too thick. So I had to sand the other end and remove some of the thickness. And now you know, it's not perfect, but for a schmuck it'll do. It's better than touching 115 and being in the shower. So the base is on, the felt's held down tight. Let's get that lint off there. Look how nice that looks. No glue. Bada bing, bada boom. Now that's done. Maybe I should test it, but the next step is to start reassembling the head, and then it should I remember to label the brushes, 1B and 2B. Like I said, boom, ready to go. Alright, so I was in a bad mood yesterday when I was starting this because the Jets lost. And I'll probably get 100 views on this fan anyway, so I cleaned up this oscillator part. What the fuck? I cleaned up this oscillator part, nut and screw with goof off, and the little thing here that goes to the oscillator piece. Cleaned it up, put super lube on the nut and a little bit on this swivel. Remember, there's a washer in there. I got that in, and it's pretty smooth. Not a squeak in the world. I also decided to mount the stator for now before I solder the brushes. I'm not really sure this is going to stand, but that's the way I decided to do it. I also, if you remember from the first video, I had to pretty much hammer this on a 2x4 to get this rotor out. But I got the oil that came with the vintage wire kit, and I oiled the shaft, and I oiled the bearing, or whatever you call that thing there, the end bell, I don't know. And she's nice and smooth. A little resistance, but there's no fan, there's no momentum on it yet, and I don't have this exactly balanced yet because the back's not in, so there's a little play. So I'm relieved I got that all in. Everything's been cleaned with goof off, every screw, hole, you name it, and that's been the most timely part. The fan blades, the cage. So hopefully you're watching parts 1 and 2. If not, you can go back and look by the title. So we're getting close, and I kind of butchered the description earlier on how the wiring works, but I must have explained it before because I had a picture in my notes along with this patent I found. So that's what I was trying to explain. You got 115 AC, one side goes to the switch, off there's no connection, high it goes straight up through the stator, the field winding back down through the stator, and out. And you can tell by that position of the switch. In high, there's no resistance in it. It just goes up. In medium, there's a 60 ohm, and in low, it goes through 120 ohm, or at least that's what I measured. So kind of like what I drew up here in an earlier video, I suppose. I just had I'm being very careful not to screw up the wiring. I labeled everything, and these might be a little stiff soldering because I don't have a lot of lead length. I probably shorted myself a little bit, but the next step is going to be soldering the head wire that's coming out here. It goes through the hole in the bottom of this right here. And I found some rubber plugs that I ordered on Amazon. I had to clean these all up because my grandfather or father just basically whaled them with tape to hold the brushes in. So I cleaned that all up really good, but I can't find anything that really fits. So I bought some rubber plugs today that should work. And then we'll add the grease to the gearbox. And then there's a little knob that I have to figure out a way to attach there. I could JB weld it, but I'll never get it off, or at least easily. And by tightening that knob, it locks that shaft down so that it spins, and by loosening it, it doesn't put any friction on that gear below it, and it just stays in one position. So we'll get that all filled up with grease, and soldering to these brushes is going to be a bear because I have to somehow start putting this on here and soldering in there, and I suck at soldering. I got to solder to those brushes there. You see where the old ones were, and I gotta figure that all out. I mean, I know the wiring. It's just going to be how am I going to support this while I solder, and not have enough lead, have not too much lead length that I can tuck it all back in there somehow, or bust the leads. I don't know. It's going to be a pain in the neck. That's the next step. All right, let's keep going here. Yeah, by the way, I'm only working on this an hour a week, every other week, so it's been a while. Yeah, I'm really struggling with soldering this gear end to the stator end. The wires are all short. I've got the brushes soldered on there. I don't know if you can see that. 1B and 2B. Barely. I don't know if you can see. I'm struggling with light. I'm struggling with my eyes. I got one soldered. For some reason the wires are in the stator, or on, I don't know, they're not taking a wire, they're not taking the solder. So I got one on. And the biggest hassle is, even if I get them soldered, how am I going to tuck it away so it's not interfering with that commutator? So this is difficult. The one bit of good news is I found these Chinese brush caps. Well, I bought these rubber plugs. Finally found something, and they do fit, and they will hold the brushes in, hopefully. So let me try to keep soldering with this piece of shit Craftsman. I just suck at soldering. That could be a lot of it. Ugh. Well, I got the lead soldered up, and it better be right, or I might have to scramble this project. If this thing spins in the opposite direction, I don't think those stator leads can take another go around, or my patience. I gotta figure out how I can tuck that all in so it doesn't hit the commutator or the rotor. I gotta put a little oil on that shaft, just a little bit, because this is greased on the back. Yeah, it was not good soldering to those I don't know, every one of them was a cold solder joint, it looked like. I don't know why it wasn't taking solder hard enough to just solder with the wires wiggling and trying to stabilize it. I don't know. Let's see if I can tuck this all back together and screw the back onto the stator housing. Well, after months of messing around with this in my spare time, I've got the back of the stator back in. What was blocking it when I was pushing it on was one of these brush housing holders. It slides a little bit in and out, so the holder for the brush was hitting it. Then I put the brushes in and these new brush caps from China. I greased this up a little bit. Put the oscillator lever back on. It seems to be spinning. I think I hear the brushes spinning okay. So here goes nothing. Before I put the fan on and the cage and the top of this and scramble this project, I've made a makeshift plug that I'm just going to test quickly here. So it's in the off position. Let me put the plug in, and don't do this at home, ha ha ha. Hold on a second. Okay, this is either going to be depression or excitement. I don't feel like it's spinning in the right position, and that sounded a little funny. I wonder if it's hitting the brush holders, or it's just these gears with the gearbox off making that noise. Let me think about this. But it ran, and apparently in all 3 speeds. So let me see if I can figure out what that squeaking is. Is it hitting a wire in there? Didn't feel like it. Doesn't smell funny. Hold on. I got the fan on just to see. After all that messing around with making sure the wires are right, why do I feel like it's going in the wrong direction? Hold on. Well, it's not going in the wrong direction, but something sounds off. Let me see if those brushes are hitting. Or too tight. Thank God it's going in the right direction. Oh, I know what it might be. I don't have the grease fitting on the front. It's going in the right direction and it oscillates. And whatever that noise was worked its way out. So I think the brushes were settling in or spinning. Let me get the rest of this thing greased up. Got a new plug. It's all assembled. Had to get some new screws for the cage. For some reason the old ones didn't fit. You can see them there. I don't know how the old ones ever did fit, which might explain why in video 1 they were all gnarled up. What am I doing here? Okay, let's fire her up. Robbins and Myers, 1930s vintage fan. Oh, that oscillator knob's a little loose, so I'm gonna have to tighten that. But she works. It's a lot cleaner. I'll post some before pictures. Thanks to Vintage Wire and Supply for the parts, the grommets, the wire, the plug, the wicking material, new knobs. Oh boy, there it goes. And here's something I used to like doing when I was a kid. Hey, how's it going? Hi. Hey, how's it going? I'm doing pretty good. How are you?